do a prayer song, singing about angels in the sky watching over us, and we're out in the land when we're doing what we have to do to survive and thrive. That's the first song, and the second song we're going to do that journey song. Lots of times, our elders always ask for a journey song before you go. A lot of parents, they always ask for that journey song for newborn babies, to have a good journey wherever you're going. Stop. Joe, and hope everybody has a good day, and everybody's good thoughts for the future.
All right. Oh, it's right back. Okay. I just put it on the back corner there. All right. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. First of all, thank you everyone for being here today. We got to celebrate a pretty remarkable person today, and we're very lucky to do that. You're going to see a bit of me today because I'm going to be kind of emceeing this thing. So I've got a few things I'd like to share before I invite some people that we requested to speak today. And then we're going to open up the floor to everybody. If you'd like to share a story, think of one because we're going to call on you. Couple of thank yous. First things first. This beautiful quilt was dropped off this morning by Bertha Harmon. She made it for my mother in recognition of her work. It was meant to be given to her in like 2021. Obviously, life got in the way a little bit, and she wasn't able to give it to her, but she dropped it off this morning. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I want to send out a big thanks to Bertha and her family for providing that for us today. It's a beautiful piece of work. You'll have to excuse me. I can be on this stage in any capacity other than public speaking, so I might meander a little bit. I'm going to sweat a lot. Big thanks to NAC as well, to Martin, to Casey, to everyone here at NAC for donating the space and donating their time. Absolutely fantastic. I was supposed to be here for the 40th anniversary last Saturday. Renata Arluck reached out in September and asked if I could host, and I think my response was yes, 1,000 times yes. Even though emceeing is tough for me. Unfortunately, obviously, with things happening the way they did, it became impossible for us to do that. And I was very sorry to miss the show, and I know my mother was too. She loved being on this stage, and had one of her biggest triumphs, she would say, of her personal life is staging Res Sisters right here on the stage in 2001. And she's incredibly proud of that. And if you ever talk to her about theater, she probably mentioned it. So there is a book of photos out there that you could take a look at afterwards. We're going to do, obviously, the celebration. Please stay and eat and drink and share stories after we're done. There's a ton of food, so please stay and eat it. So we've got a few family tributes first, and then I've asked a few guests to come up and speak about her professional career, but also her impact on the community, Yellowknife, the NWT, and I've got some remarks from a federal employee, I'll call him. So first, again, thank you for being here. And before I start to choke up, I'm just going to go into some of my opening remarks from her brother, who lives in Saskatoon, and he sent me, he was hesitant to share some thoughts. He's been very affected by her passing, but this morning or last night he came through with some words. So I want to share this from her brother Neil, my uncle. Here we go. My sister Gail was a force of nature, and anyone who knew her felt it the moment she walked into a room. She had this incredible way of lighting up everything around her, always radiating warmth, love, and energy. She was one of the most resilient people I've ever known. No matter what life threw her way, she faced it head on with strength and a smile. Gail had a heart of gold and a gift for making people feel seen and heard, always ready with a hug, a laugh, or just the right words to make you feel better. Her love and kindness didn't stop with family. She made everyone feel like they mattered. I was fortunate enough to have had someone like her by our family side, a free spirit who gave so much and loved so freely. I will forever cherish our talks and shared stories, especially her loud, contagious laughter that followed wherever she'd go. She was not only a sister to me, but an aunt and a beloved sister-in-law to my family. Gail had always been someone I looked up to as a child and continues to inspire those around her with her legacy. Gail will be dearly missed, but the love and light she shared with us will never be forgotten. Very nice. So thank you to Neil for that one. Neil was her brother via adoption. If you're kind of interested in her beginnings, there is a poster board out there with a story that was sent in from foster care services when she started doing some digging on her family. It shows a pretty harrowing history. She was put into the system at about 18 months, and from there was moved a couple of times till she found her permanent family. It's a really interesting story, so if you have a chance to read it, you should do that. Well, we'll kind of continue moving on. I'm going to call up Phoenix. She wanted to say a few words. Phoenix?
I was hoping you'd cry so I didn't have to be the first one. We've heard and have seen and will continue to hear about the incredible legacy that Gail has as an advocate, artist, politician, volunteer, performer, and much more. What I know of her most is as a proud mama. She loved her son so much and was so very proud of him. We moved up here 11 years ago and drove 2 cars packed full of stuff from our apartment in Vancouver. We arrived at Gail's cute little pink house, and I had never met her before. We were planning to live there for a few months. She welcomed us into our house and showed us our room, which was actually the sewing room. It was to be our bedroom, but it was still mostly her sewing room. By that night, I was already hearing stories of Jesse's youth. I think one of the very first ones was that the time when he was in grade 2, and he knew so much about dinosaurs that he was invited to Amanda Mallon's grade 6 class to tell them all about the Pachycephalosaurus. Gail loved to tell that story, talk about Jesse's knowledge of dinosaurs and all the other things that he knew. She'd mentioned the costumes that she got to build for him. The Cowardly Lion costume was one she was quite proud of when he was in The Wizard of Oz. She loved telling the stories that reflected bits of her. They share so many qualities: intelligence, quick wit, a love of performing, a loud laugh. They're also really good at arguing, which was a fun game that they shared. Neither held anything back if anything needed to be said. Her boldness, her strength, and her commitment to her community are other traits she was so happy to see in her son. She was so very proud of Cabin Radio. There are many articles and letters from her in support of their CRTC application. Gail loved knowing that her son had a voice in the Yellowknife community, and she loved to brag about him. As we were preparing for today, Jesse said he wanted to MC, because that's what she would have done. Complete with costume changes, maybe. Don't want to give anything away. And being here at NAC feels very, very appropriate. So through her legacy, through her son, Gail's show goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoenix. So in asking for people to come forward today, obviously we're going to have, we hope to open up the floor for everybody to share a memory or share a laugh or share a story. As you know, she had stories for everyone. So I wanted to get a gauge or perspective from the city, from the territory, and from countrywide. So I've asked Mayor Alty to speak today. I've asked Caroline Wozniak to speak today. To represent the city and the territory, and also federally. I have a letter here. They weren't able to attend, but the former press secretary for the Governor General, former Canadian ambassador to Iceland, former chief protocol of Canada, and the current Canadian ambassador to Argentina and Paraguay sent his remarks. He also happens to be her stepson. Whatever. bear with me. He is, he literally wrote speeches for the Governor General, so this is very nice. Gail Cyr. In addition to being the amazing mom that Jesse will tell you about, and the dedicated volunteer and community leader you all know her to have been, Gail also played an important role in the lives of me and my sisters, Amy and Melissa, who spent many summers of our formative years in Yellowknife with her, Jesse, and my father, Ross Wheeler. From the very beginning of our time as a family, she was a role model for us. She was smart, outgoing. She was a smart, outgoing community leader who took on being a stepmom with gusto. I remember being mesmerized by her passion as she campaigned and then won election as a city councilor. And despite being a political junkie from a young age, I don't think I realized at the time how significant it was that she was one of the first and only Indigenous women in those years to be elected councilor and serve as deputy mayor. To us, she was just this amazing stepmom. Gail is a central figure in so many of our childhood memories of the North: camping trips, campfires, boat trips on the lake, fishing and cookouts, and in all of those memories there is storytelling and barrels of laughter, loud, gregarious belly laughter. Not only was Gail a storyteller, she was a debater, she was courageous and compassionate, she was outspoken and knew how to stand her ground. She was creative and passionate, loved the arts, loved life, and loved sharing it with people, all kinds of people. I think her success in public life is partially due to the fact that she was so at ease with everybody. Whatever their background, whatever their journey in life. She taught us so much, not by lecturing or telling us how to be, but by showing us through her everyday drive, her engagement, and her generous energy. The CBC news story after her passing started with the following description. Once described as a powerful voice for Northern Indigenous communities, well-known Yellowknife resident Gail Cyr has died. I found that curious because when one uses an expression like once described as, you don't really know who exactly used those words and on what occasion. And while in some ways the question of who described Gail that way doesn't really matter, it certainly doesn't detract from the truth of the statement. Gail had a powerful voice, and she had the intelligence and courage to use it to promote, defend, and advance things that she was passionate about. But in this case, I think the context of who said it is significant. That description was the first line of the citation read to Mary Simon, the Governor General of Canada. Oscar, give me strength. On behalf of a grateful nation, as Gail stood beside her in front of a packed ballroom at Rideau Hall in Ottawa, as Governor General Simon prepared to induct her into the Order of Canada in December of 2022. Today, on this occasion, I think the full citation merits being repeated. Gail Cyr is a powerful voice for Indigenous communities in Canada's North, a longtime public servant in the government of the Northwest Territories. She is recognized for her involvement with the Native Court Workers Association and as special advisor on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. She is also esteemed as the former executive director of the Native Women's Association. Her commitment to bringing Indigenous representation into Canada's political and social discourse continues in her work with the Northwest Territories Human Rights Commission. It was a proud moment for our family, for Yellowknife, and one that my brother, Jesse, and I were fortunate enough to be a part of with her. But it wasn't the first time we sat in the same room at Rideau Hall, at the very heart of the nation's capital, to hear a citation read and to see Gail honored by Canada. A decade before we had been there when she received the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal that served to honor significant contributions and achievements by Canadians from across the country. She was also honored on a national level in 2013 when she was recognized with an Inspire Award, the highest honor the Indigenous community bestows upon its own people, for her lifelong dedication to public service. We were going to Ottawa like every year. Just another one? All right, we'll dust off my suit. I've included the full Order of Canada citation and mentioned these other national level recognitions because it is important to remember that today that Gail's boundless energy and passion for community service had ripple effects beyond this community in Yellowknife, beyond the communities that she worked with across the NWT in the North. She made an impact on our country, and that was celebrated on the national stage. On that day, in December 2022, Governor General Mary Simon spoke directly with Gail to Gail and to other inductees into the Order of Canada with the following words. Today we learn your stories. Throughout your lives and careers, you have made our communities better. You have improved our quality of life. You have changed the way we live, work, and think. What makes this moment particularly special is that you were nominated by someone who saw the hard work you put in. They knew, as we all do, that you are worthy of recognition. And now we will forever know your stories, and you will all play an important role in our shared future. There is perhaps no better tribute I can think of for a woman like Gail, who survived the 60s scoop, who faced firsthand the barriers and the violence of a Southern Canadian society not willing to embrace an ambitious, hard-working, outspoken Indigenous woman, who moved north and helped build a different kind of community, and who contributed generously and selflessly to that community. No greater accolade than to be acknowledged and thanked by the country's first Indigenous Governor General, herself a trailblazing Inuk woman, for making a lasting impact on our country and our shared future as Canadians. To Amy, Melissa, and me, she was Gail. She was our stepmom. She was someone whose huge smile and expressive eyes made our dad's eyes sparkle with his own smile light up. She was someone with a big laugh and a bigger heart who welcomed us into her northern family and made us better people for it. And it is fitting that her country also recognized how special she was. She will be sadly missed and forever loved. Stuart Wheeler, Ambassador to Argentina and Paraguay. Doll, you want to come try to top that? Or I'd like to ask Darlene Mandeville and Shirley Cook to come up and say a few words, please. And you don't have to rub Oscar for luck, but you can if you want.
Shirley and I are here today to talk about our friend and the fun we had. And I think I've used this mic before. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. But first of all, our friend, Marie Cole, who can't be here, wanted to send a message. So she wrote it out for me, and I'll read it to you. Okay. Both Gail and I arrived in Yellowknife in the 70s when the town was only a few thousand people. We knew each other but didn't become close friends until a few years later. In the early 80s, we found ourselves both living in the old town. My son Evan and her son Jesse became good friends. And Jesse became a permanent fixture in my house, and likewise my son and her house. Summer evenings would find us searching for the boys, who would be fishing late into the midnight sun off some dock, catching the same old jackfish that they caught 100 times before. In the second half of the 80s, this is from Gail. I'm sorry, Marie Cole, not me. In the second half of the 80s, we served together on Yellowknife City Council. We learned to respect and appreciate one another and became good friends. I, for one, appreciated her intelligence and kindness. This is the Rez sister story. One day in early 2001, Gail called and said she wanted to talk to me. She arrived at my office and said she wanted me, along with our other good friend Gail Daniels, to try out for the Rez Sisters, a play she was producing at NAC. The Rez Sisters is a play written by Thompson Highway, a Cree playwright who was also from northern Manitoba and who we both knew. It is a story of 7 women from a fictional reserve in northern Ontario who are dreaming and working towards raising enough money to travel to Toronto to the biggest bingo in the world. I told her that I was absolutely not interested in becoming an actor, but that I would help her in any way I could behind the scenes. She would hear nothing of it and said that I should come along with Gail Daniels to the audition. I went with Gail to the audition because I knew that she belonged in the theater and I wanted to encourage her. A few days later, Gail Cyr came to see me and said that I, along with Gail Daniels, had the leading roles. The beginning of September 2001 saw us performing in front of 4 sold-out audiences. The show was a hit, and so much fun, and so much hard work by everyone involved, especially my friend Gail Cyr. It was worth it. A few days after our show, September 11, 2001, saw the World Trade Center destroyed. Gail always felt that the success of our Red Sisters show was very much overshadowed because of this, understandably. What are you doing?
I'm just laughing.
I see I got a brat behind me. The fall of 2013 saw a number of our Yellowknife friends traveling to Rome and taking a cruise of the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. Gail and I roomed together and did all of our tours together. During the cruise, we found ourselves on the island of Malta, an island situated at a strategic location in the Mediterranean Sea between Africa and Europe. Gail and I got off the ship and decided to take this double-decker convertible tour bus. We sat up top, driving around Malta, hair flying. We foolishly decided to get off the bus at the top of this mountain in a small village. What a mistake. Nobody spoke English, and we nearly missed the ship trying to find a ride down the mountain. In Istanbul, Turkey, we got off the ship again for more tours. At the end of the tour, Gail decided to buy a handmade Persian rug and have it shipped home. I thought she was silly until I went to her house for lunch a few months later and saw the beautiful rug in her living room. Every year in November, Gail and myself and our mutual good friend, me, Doll, would get together to celebrate our birthdays. We would have a wonderful lunch and visit and exchange birthday gifts. Doll and I have birthdays in November and Gail on December 24th. A December 24th birthday is lost in the celebration of Christmas. So we would make sure that our good friend would have the same birthday treatment that we had. This year was no different. We got together a few weeks ago and had our birthday lunch at the mining museum at the giant mine site. We realize now that our friend used all our friend never got to celebrate her birthday. Okay, that's from Marie. Now from me, I'm going to tell stories about Gail. And they're good ones. Okay, we were friends for many years. We spent many good times together and took advantage of every opportunity to have fun. Some of these things included exploring Tin Can Hill in -30, visiting at the Gold Range, just visiting. Yeah. Shopping for that one thing we needed to find, and we had fun road trips. Up until a few years ago, 7 of us friends would take an annual camping trip to a cabin located about 40 kilometers south of Enterprise. I think we did this trip for about 8 years in a row. Of course, all planning for this trip centered around having as much fun as we could get in over a long weekend. A big part of the weekend agenda was the dress-up night. We would agree on a theme, like the Academy Awards. Our costumes were elaborate, and we each focused on getting it right. One year, we were dressed up as brides. So one of the girls' brothers came to the camp unannounced and to bring us wood. And we left because they thought they interrupted a wedding. We were good. And Gail, as a costume designer, always had an outstanding costume, but dressing up wasn't her main goal when preparing for the annual trip. Gail came equipped with the mindset of keeping us safe. She brought her amazing, fully equipped first aid kit, first responder, and didn't hesitate to tell us to smarten up if we needed to. One year we decided to do some renovations to the cabin. This time Gail brought her tools, which were mostly pink, all by herself, and she did this. She took the cupboards off the wall in the cabin wall, renovated them, and moved them to another wall in the cabin. She was like amazing, and she wouldn't quit till it was done. When Gail decided something was to be done, she did it. I learned to be careful not to tell Gail about something that I needed or wanted. She would show up the door within a few days and with a big smile pass that something to me. Gail showed her love for Jessie right to the end. When I visited Gail and Jessie,
When I visited Gail and Jessie in the hospital, she was mostly resting, and although she knew I was there, she was quiet. But when Jessie spoke to her, Gail responded with one of her great smiles. Jessie, your mom adored you. I'm thankful for having Gail as a friend, as my friend, thankful for all the memories. I'm blessed to have her in my life.
okay, now you. Let's stay here with you. You want to use this one? Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. I'm a Gail for a long time, so she's my good friend forever. So the picture, I didn't know, so I'm very mission, I do, because it's really hard for me. And then my friend here, Casey, so she's my heart. She bought me jacket, this way. So I'm gonna make sure I do. She took me in supper, and back to pizza, big apple, so I make her laugh, she makes me laugh, so you want to die? You want to die? So you just try to make me laugh and you say, go out of the road, go out of the road. She got stuck in the eye. So you just try to make me laugh. So it's too hard for me anyway. We're gonna make sure anyway. Thanks for telling. That's all.
Thank you to Dawn and Shirley. Stories like that are just incredible. I guess we'll get to my remarks. When do you do a eulogy? The end, in the middle? Do you want to go out with a bang? I don't know. So, if I meander a little bit, bear with me. Again, public speaking is not fun for me. I could do this, I could be in front of a camera, I could be on stage, but public speaking to me is just death. And I mentioned that we were supposed to be here a couple weeks ago to MC, and it didn't happen, and we we were sorry to miss it, but my mom and I got to share the stage a couple of times. We did Guys and Dolls on this stage in 1998. It was the first show I'd ever done here. And we did Rocky Horror Show in what was the Richter, which is now the Legion. I don't think the Legion's there anymore, though. Anyway, it was there. And then we did the Spoken Word Festival with Ollie a few years back, and that was just perfect. The format for that was perfect. It was basically her just talking about her life and me just being like, oh, God. Yeah, that happened, and I was there. Thanks, Mom. So that was, it was pretty awesome. We got to do that. But she loved it here. So as we were kind of going through spaces, I reached out to the Tree of Peace, which is where we had my dad's celebration. They were booked up. You know, Mom passed at like a pretty inconvenient time. It's busy. It's Christmas. So we reached out to, and we thought maybe the Great Hall at the Legislative Assembly. Incredible room, really appropriate. And they said, absolutely, it's available, but you can only have 80 people. So we're like, probably not that. I reached out to the D&D gym. I've been to a couple celebrations there. It's a nice little space. But then Nat came up. It kind of kept coming back in the conversation. I wasn't sure about it, and then we reached out, and again, thank you to them for donating the space, and for Martin and Casey for donating their time. And this really turned out to be the perfect space for it. She loved being on the stage. She spent days, weeks, months of time backstage, on stage, doing costumes, stage managing, directing, producing, whatever she could do, whatever she could get her hands on. So this turned out to be really the perfect space. And during the 40th anniversary show, someone had told me, and they shared a picture of it, that they had a moment for my mom, and they put her photo up here, and there was a standing ovation, which I thought was really beautiful, and and she would have loved that. She would have loved that. And she probably wouldn't let you hear the end of it either. Did you hear I got a standing ovation? Yeah, Ma, I heard you got a standing ovation. It's nice. This is my second time doing this. I'm going through my notes, pardon me. This is my second time doing this. This is my second time eulogizing a parent. I don't think eulogizing is a word, is it? Doing eulogy for a parent. I did one for my father who passed away in 2012. I don't know how you really prepare for this other than just kind of sitting down and kind of going through memories and writing things down as they come to you. Because everything in the last week has just kind of been like, there it is, gone, there it is, gone. So just trying to kind of filter as much as I can through. The first time went pretty well. Got some laughs. It was, even my mom loved it. She said, you were so good, thank you so much. And I was like, yeah, thank you very much. So, I mean, you know, try to go 2 for 2 on the eulogies for parents here. And I think I'll stick to the formula that I had for my dad's. I think you're going to hear a lot about her professional exploits, her community service, her just everything about her from anyone who wants to share, and you're going to hear a lot of that. We've already kind of heard a lot of that. Her warmth, her giant laugh, her beautiful smile, and you're going to hear about her many awards and commendations and successes that she's had. And I kind of wanted to touch on those things, but also just kind of share with you a couple things that popped into my memory as we were, as I was preparing for this. All of that stuff, all of the loudness and the laughter and the smiling and the stories and the stopping people while we're shopping and things like that, these are all beautiful things about her, and unfortunately for a younger person, a little embarrassing, because she's like, okay, Mom, I get it. She was a lot. She was a lot in the best way. I mean, I am standing here with a very large papier-mâché penis that, second only to me, was her greatest creation. Just an example. So she did the blush report for the Northwards Festival a few times. And just to give you an example, the last time she did it, just before her 70th birthday, not just before, the year of her 70th birthday. I'll share with you some of this. I've been 69ing in these past few months, and the times have been enjoyable. That's enough. That's enough. Even at 40, you're like, oh, God. Oh. But that was her, like she shared whatever she wanted, really. She wasn't embarrassed. She was proud. She stood her ground. She shared with you everything that she wanted to share with you. All the love she had within her, she wanted to share with everybody else. And that was part of it. And that embarrassment doesn't stop when you're 15. It keeps going. But it's not embarrassment. It's like, yeah, but then you think about it and you're like, oh, there's no one like this person, and I get to have her as my mom. And that's pretty cool. And, a little weird. But a couple other things that kind of popped into my mind. She taught me how to drive when I was 12 in the old 91 Toyota Corolla, which became my first car. We took long drives all summer long. We would take like hour and a half, 2-hour drives. We'd go out by Cam Lake, what's now Grace Lake, that subdivision, and drive through there. And she was adamant that I learned to drive stick, because she's like, if you don't learn how to drive stick, you're never going to learn how to properly drive. So there I was, 12 years old, in 4th gear, going like 75 kilometers an hour. And she's like, maybe ease up on it a little bit. And I was like, okay. But on those drives were like very formative in like what music I listened to. We listened to the Mamas and the Papas' greatest hits on repeat. We listened to Tina Turner's Private Dancer album on repeat. We listened to the Big Chill soundtrack on repeat. Those are the 3 tapes she had in her car at the time. But like informed all the music I listened to. And again, in reflecting on all these things, and I mentioned to Ollie when he called me to ask about her for the tribute that was in Cabin Radio, beautiful work, my friend, by the way. So much of who I am and what I do is because of my mother, and I think we can all say that about our parents. Our parents kind of, rub off on us, but it's not just like the way I look or the fact that I have literally no ass. Because my dad's like a white man and my mother is Cree, and if you don't know anything about Cree, they have no butts. So I have no ass. It's really uncomfortable. But so much of what I came to love came from her. Like she taught me how to throw a baseball. My dad, if you knew him, it's like the least athletic person ever. But my mother taught me about baseball. She taught me how to throw a baseball. So all of that, and I mean, if you know anything about throwing something, it's actually pretty like akin to like so many different things that you can do athletically. Once you know how to throw, it's like, okay, you could probably do a lot more things. So there was that, and then her music tastes. Even the way I sing and I perform come from things that she loved, that she shared with me. So I love movies and I love musicals, and I wanted to pursue acting, and she gave me the support. Both my parents were incredibly supportive and gave me the push and gave me the support you need to be like, hey, don't worry if you're getting into a career that's absolute death economically, or financially, it's totally fine. We have your back, and they were incredible with that. So she gave me enough courage and the push to do that. And so much of that stuff. Like The Commitments is why I sing the way I sing, if you've ever seen The Commitments. And the reason I act is because she instilled a love in that for me. So everything that I've done and everything that's brought me to where I am right now, in front of a group of people, like showing their support for my mother and support for our family, and who I have in my life, my partner Phoenix, and everything that has brought me here, so much of it has to do with things she instilled in me when I was a kid. And I couldn't be more thankful. She was my coach during those baseball years as well. So that was when we started to learn how to argue. So a couple of things. I've mentioned this one on the show. These are just funny memories I have of her. I've mentioned this one on the show. So Gordon Lightfoot visited town a few times. I don't know if he ever played. Does anybody that's been here for a long time, did Gordon ever play here? No, but he visited. Camping trips, fishing trips. Apparently my mom met him because she said, and I quote, "Gordon Lightfoot is a prick." Now she said this while his greatest hits were playing in the car. She She loved his music, but just said he was a prick. And we've talked about it on the show, and he was a bit of a drinker back then, so that might have been why. The other one, which, I'm sorry, it makes me laugh so much. She claims to have dated Ernest Monius. Okay? So for those of you who don't know who Ernest Monius is, Uncle Ernie. He is, like if he comes to the Gold Range, like people come in from every community in the territory to be like, we're gonna go see Ernest Monius. Yeah. So she claims to have dated him, and then it became a date with Ernest Monius. And then it became, well, I don't know if that ever happened. So it led me to think, I was, God, did my mom have a one-night stand with Ernest Monius? I look like my dad, but I mean, I look like Ernest Monius a little bit. I wouldn't have the gray eyes, though. I wouldn't, no, probably not. So, what's funny, though, is as I was going through all the pictures, of which there are hundreds, I almost brought a whole box just so you could, like, sift through loose photos. I found a picture, an old school picture of a young Indigenous man, and on the back it says Ernest Monius, 1970. He was born in 49, so he would have been, like, what would he been, 20, well, I can't do math right now, 21? He would have been, thank you. He would have been 21. Doesn't really match up. So I'm thinking that my mother didn't, she dated an Ernest Monius, not the Ernest Monius. I mentioned before that one of the accomplishments that she would rave about and tell me about, even till a couple weeks ago, she did Thompson Highway's Res Sisters on this stage, and she was incredibly proud of that. And if you see the photo album out there, there's even a 1988 like binding of the play, so be careful with it. But in that binder full of photos, at the very back, which I didn't know about until I looked through it all, is a personal letter from Thompson Highway, which I thought was so cool, because it's got his autograph on there. He's like, you know, on the back it says, "I heard your production was a great success, congratulations." And I was like, that is so cool. Thompson Highway is amazing, and she was such a huge fan of his. And I turned it over and just to read the rest, and it was him asking for money, but it was the checks that she had sent for the rights to the play. He hadn't cashed it. He was like, "I spend most of my time in Italy. I haven't had a chance to cash it. If you could send me another one post-haste, that would be nice." And then at the end, it was like, "By the way, I heard your production was great. Thanks. Congratulations." Which I thought was very cool. So I just kind of wanted to share a couple things with you. Like I said, I'm going to be kind of back and forth in this. But one of my very dear friends, when reading her story, which you can read on one of those poster boards, and please do, she said, "Talk about a breaker of cycles. Talk about a cycle breaker." Yeah, the breaker of cycles. She had a character, which you can see, Princess Warrior, Gail Cyr, Princess Warrior, breaker of cycles. If you read her story, you will attest. You will figure that out. That she comes from a very small place in northern Manitoba, Nelson House. She was born in a nursing station, according to the chief, was one of the few babies born in that nursing station. And even at that time, her birth certificate said Winnipeg, because it was the closest city. They didn't really recognize that she was born in Nelson House, so she was born in Winnipeg. And that's where I thought she was born. That's where she thought she was born for a very long time, until she got that story about 15 years ago. She did her journey to find out where she was from and who she was from, and she did. She found it. And she found two sisters, and she found out the history of her parents. She found out that she almost died of malnutrition at 18 months. She found out that she was put into the system at 18 months, and that all of her siblings were also put into the system. She found out she had 3 siblings that were whereabouts unknown. She found out so much about herself just by finally doing the digging that she wanted to do for years and years and years. And she was very proud of that, and she sent it to me right away. And it's a harrowing, harrowing story. So to come from that, to where we are today, and everything that she's done in between, is a breaker of cycles. Absolutely. One of the last kind of back and forths we had, Phoenix mentioned earlier that we argued. It was part of our thing. We kind of yell at each other. But one of the last interactions that we had when she was still pretty lucid, because towards the end she was drifting away, and she would not kind of respond to the nurses. The nurses would be like, "Hey Gail, how you doing? Do you need a pillow?" And she'd just be like, she'd kind of look at them, and then I'd just kind of come in front of her face like, "Mama, do you need a pillow?" And she'd be like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And one of the last interactions we had was that the nurse came in to give her some medicine, to give her some pain meds. And she kind of was like, "I'm not in pain." She kind of indicated that she wasn't in pain. And I said, I just leaned in front of her again. "Hey, you old bat, you need to take your meds." And she went, "Okay." So she took her meds. So that was kind of the last back and forth we had. There was responses after that, but one of the things before she slowed right down, the Wednesday. So she went to the hospital on Tuesday. The Wednesday, she was still doing okay. But by Thursday, we'd come to the realization that we were going to keep her comfortable. And one of the last things on the Wednesday, before I left for the evening, was she said, "I love you," 4 times in a row. "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." And she said, "I'm sorry." I told her I loved her. And I can't imagine anyone who has any fewer reasons to be sorry than my mama. So I told her I loved her. And the next day we moved into the rest of it. And that was it. And I got to be there for it all. And it was, you can imagine. So I wanted to share with you just a few short stories, because I wanted this to be about laughter and sharing of these fun times. Get loud, laugh as much as we can, because that's what you would want. I have a penis on the... For a split second, we were like, we should split this open and wrap it around the mic so that everyone needs to talk into it. She would always say, "That's average size." So we'll move on. I'll be back, and I just wanted to, the last thing I wrote before I left this morning was, and I don't know why this came to me. It's not a quote or anything, but it's just, "Forged by pain and isolation, met with fury and laughter." And I thought that was appropriate. So thank you. And you don't need to clap, it's fine. No, so I was actually saying don't, but that's fine. So I've asked a few people here to speak from a perspective of the city, from a perspective of the territory. We've already got the federal one, you know, the ambassador to Argentina and Paraguay. But Mayor Rebecca Alty, would you please come up and say a few words? Thank you. I can move it over a little bit if you want.
Thanks, Jesse. And I forgot the first time I performed at NAC was The Wizard of Oz with you, and your mama did a great costume, and you were a fantastic lion pouncing about on this stage. So today we gather to celebrate and honor the life of an extraordinary woman, Gail Cyr. Though our hearts are heavy with grief, they're also filled with love and gratitude for having had the privilege of knowing and sharing our lives with her. As mentioned, over her remarkable career, one of the barriers that Gail broke was being the first Indigenous alderman, or city councillor as we'd say now. She served 5 terms from 1984 to 1994 here in Yellowknife. Following her time on council, she used her municipal experience to help NWT communities run their own local elections in the 1990s and 2000s. Beyond her contributions to municipal governments, Gail was also a fierce advocate for women's and human rights, including her service from 2007 to 2014 as the special advisor to the minister responsible for the status of women and on the NWT Human Rights Commission from 2018 until her recent passing. Her incredible contributions were recognized with numerous accolades, including the Order of Canada and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, which in reading the article, I just really appreciated that Gail, so often people are like, oh, I don't do this for awards. Well, like, clearly that's not why people get into service. And she said, yes, she owned it. Like, I deserved this award. I worked really hard for this. So I think that was, a few of the stories shared, owning her power. I really appreciate. One of the first times that I engaged with Gail in a more professional capacity and not as Jesse's mom, who lives in a really cool, funky pink house, is when we did have a really good after party after the Wizard of Oz there. She must have been out at one of her events, is when I attended a campaign school for women in the summer of 2012. Decades after she'd finished serving on council, she was still participating and sharing her knowledge to encourage more women to run and hopefully be successful. It's a testament to her passion and dedication to women's rights and improving our community, particularly because it was an absolutely beautiful summer weekend and she was in there with us all weekend. I remember it was there that I learned Yellowknife used to have 2-year terms and half a council and mayor would be elected 1 year and the remaining half the next year, which honestly sounds like a nightmare to have folks in campaign mode every year and having to get new folks up to speed. But, the intent was to have continuity. Gail agreed and was happy when the change was made to have longer terms and mayor and council elected at the same time. But I won't bore you with other governance things that we nerded out on at the time. I reached out to a few of Gail's former council colleagues to hear more about her. Every single person consistently said she spoke her mind, she could be counted on to have done her homework and showed up to the meeting ready to contribute. And I think one of the most important things, she could disagree with someone without being disagreeable, and they could be friends after. And perhaps these things sound like no-brainers, but having been on council for years, this is the ideal council member, and it's really hard to do. While you balance a full-time job, family, friends, volunteering, as Gail was doing, St. John's, Ambulance, Rotary, being on the Mother Truckers baseball team, and so much more. I did want to read one message from former councillor Bob Brooks and his wife Lynn, who both worked with Gail. I'll read it in their words, so remember that we is Gail and Bob and Lynn. And I'm not exactly sure where Stupid Lake is, but maybe Jesse knows. Gail Cyr was a great friend to Bob and Lynn, both personally and professionally. We did some shows at NAC together. We often sang together at George and Doll Mandeville's. We've had more than a few camping trips and trips to Stupid Lake, where much wisdom was shared. Professionally, Lynn worked with Gail as women's advocates, and Gail and Bob often worked as a team on one of the many Yellowknife Council issues. Knowing Gail was a pleasure and a joy, and we're going to miss her dearly. Love from Bob and Lynn Brooks. Today, as we bid farewell to Gail, let us remember her as she truly was, a beacon of love, a source of unwavering support, and a shining example of how to live a life full of purpose. While we mourn her loss, we also celebrate the countless ways she enriched our lives. May we honor her legacy by living our own lives with the same love, courage, resiliency, and kindness that she showed us every day. Rest peacefully, Gail. You'll be deeply missed, but your spirit will live on in all of us. Masi.
There were no such parties at my mother's house. I actually mentioned this to Ashley in Phoenix while we were kind of cleaning up the house, and I said the record in this house I think is about 70. You'd have like 70 people in the house, and if you've been to that house, you're probably about here, next to somebody. You having a good time? Yeah. I'd like to invite Deputy Premier Caroline Wozniak to say a few words.
Thank you very much for offering me this opportunity here today. Premier is traveling, and so I have the pleasure of speaking on behalf of the Government of Northwest Territories to acknowledge the impact of Gail Cyr had here in the Territory as a whole. I had the good fortune to meet Gail on several occasions, but I didn't know her personally the way it certainly sounds like many of you did in the stories that I know you will be continuing to share today. I do, however, have a strong sense that she wouldn't have wanted me to stand here and read the very formal speaking notes that were very diligently prepared for me. So I've rewritten them. And I did some research, so it's not entirely off the cuff. I also don't know that she would necessarily want a very formal government speech to take up an awful lot of the time of what is really quite a fantastic celebration already, and I've already had many laughs. So I am also going to try and be fairly brief. There's, of course, been many accolades that we've heard about already, and I suspect you'll hear more, and they are easy to find. I started doing some research this morning, and there was no end of stories, posts, articles being written on national scale about who Gail Cyr was and what she shared with her community. But what I thought I would share and what I wanted to highlight are two things, her public service and her fearlessness. Gail embodied public service in every way, very clearly, in every way that someone could. Her life was truly a testament to the Rotary motto of service above self. It's this spirit of giving and a spirit of sharing that is clearly benefiting this community, and that has benefited communities across this territory, and that has benefited so many of the organizations that shape the territory. She, of course, served 5 terms as city councillor. We've already heard from the mayor. She was a voice of fearless political leadership, which is a legacy that she continues to leave behind for folks like me. And she was also a public servant within the GNWT and acted as a special advisor to the minister responsible for the status of women, and that was under former Premier Bob McLeod, who's also here today. She's also a commission member to the Northwest Territories Human Rights Commission since 2018, and of course, a tireless volunteer. And as I was reading this morning, one thing that struck out to me was on LinkedIn. So I don't know if you knew that she was on LinkedIn. I hope she was, because if not, then I'm not sure who wrote this. But I'm hoping it was her. It certainly sounds like it would have been. It was an interesting profile. It notes, of course, that under volunteering, she has written thousands of hours, countless organizations. So quite to the point, but does go on. Quote, I am particularly proud that St. John worked with Health and Social Services for the aftercare clinic during the H1N1 response. In brackets, we were very busy. And goes on to describe also being the first responders for the 2011 royal visit. I took note of it because it was different. It was a small moment in time, but it was one that obviously mattered a great deal to the community to have that linkage between different organizations, from the St. John's Ambulance and Health and Social Services, and it's exactly the kind of thing that, from what I have read and heard, and from what I knew, embodies that spirit of finding a need, seeing a need, and actioning it to ensure the betterment of your community. She also goes on, and fact check me if you want, I may be wrong, but she goes on to detail a multitude of experiences and contributions, including, quote, being an unpaid board member for the Native Court Workers, the Northwest Territories Family Counseling Services, St. John Ambulance Native Women's Association, and while people might wish to be paid, I remain adamant there are certain community issues of involvement that you stand up for without a stipend. And that leads me to the other thing I want to comment on, and that is fearlessness. You have to sometimes be fearless to stand up for so many things. I've seen Gail at many events in the last few years, and I will have to admit, when I was asked to speak today, the opportunities I've had to interact with her in the last few years in my current role actually made me a little bit afraid of her. Not because she wasn't quick to smile, but I also knew that if there was a question coming, it was going to be a fearless one, and I better be ready for it. It's something that I appreciate. I hope more people take that time, because the questions were still thoughtful and they were still meaningful, but they were fearless. Regardless of the path that we might be on, whether trod, whether well-known, whether not well-known, whether your outcome is certain, and certainly regardless of personal gain, that fearlessness is something that the Northwest Territories is benefiting from. Thank you to Gail. Her legacy to the Northwest Territories is one of courage, of service, of compassion. And this leaves behind a lasting impact, not only through her ways of service to each and every one of us here, in the lives of so many countless individuals, whether directly or indirectly, those she mentored, supported, and inspired. And so, as I said, I'll be brief. On behalf of the government of the Northwest Territories, I want to extend my gratitude. It's gratitude to Gail for helping to shape and to enrich this community, the broader Northwest Territories community, for trailblazing for all those of us as women who've gone into politics after her, and for setting down such a legacy of selfless and fearless public service. Thank you.
I'm glad you touched on fearlessness. That came up in a lot while I was thinking about this. Fearless, not only in professional life, but fearless just to be herself, which is a rare, fairly rare thing. I mean, again, fearless. Literally brought this to like the bar with her. When we would go out to watch a show, she would bring this and put it on the table. Fearlessly herself. Her work with the Human Rights Commission was very impactful for her, and she was very proud of her work from 2018 until her passing. And I'd like to invite Jakob Adam to come up and say a few words in regards to her work with the Human Rights Commission.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Jakob Adam, Vice Chair of the Human Rights Commission. I stand here to say a few words about Gail, our colleague, on behalf of the Commission. I do so with a heavy heart and great sadness, even though we've shared a great deal of happy stories about Gail. Gail Sutton's passing was a great surprise and a shock to all of us, her colleagues at the Commission, especially so as only a few weeks ago at a two-day conference, Gail was, as always, contributing with her usual passion, knowledge, and wisdom. While I was there as the vice chair with our director, Nicole McNeil, we jointly nominated Gail to speak for us because we knew her voice carried weight beyond ours. As always, she knew the issues backwards and knew practically all the participants in the room. She commanded immediate attention and respect, as she always did. Of course, we knew why. Her life and work in the North is legendary and widely recognized. I won't list off all of it, but only to talk of her briefly as a respected and valued colleague at the Human Rights Commission. When Gail joined the Commission a few years ago, most of us didn't know her personally, apart from Charles Dent, our chair, who had known her for decades, and I'm sure if he could be here, he would offer a unique perspective. However, despite not knowing her personally, we had all heard of Gail Cyr and the work and advocacy she had done for marginalized people, especially in the indigenous communities. So we were all excited to have a voice, stature, knowledge, and wisdom at our table to deal with human rights. She did not disappoint. She brought gravitas and a powerful voice to our work on equality, human rights, and issues of discrimination. Everywhere we went in the territory, when we're doing community outreach, Gail was known and recognized and carried her voice with great deal of respect, and everyone always knew who she was. She made our work considerably easier, and her decades of work in the NWT had already had a great impact. She was a force for good, and everyone seemed to know that. Gail and I shared a lifelong commitment to human rights and had lived experiences, and we had many a chat about all sorts of issues. She both informed and educated me on the 60s scoop and residential schools, despite being a former professor and having read extensively about all of these colossal injustices. I learned a whole new dimension on these issues. For Gail brought not just knowledge and advocacy and an interest in many of these issues, she brought a lived experience which shines a light on issues in ways it always surprises one. Gail's voice at our table was not just valued, but sought, and she contributed in a clear, honest, and an assertive way, but always respectful. And as she always said, deal with the issues. Don't cover them with polite language, platitudes, and sweet rhetoric. She helped us to do that. Something I shared wholeheartedly, and as the Brits say, put it on the table and sort it. She always did that. I could go on forever about the value she brought to the Commission and the issues she helped us address, whether it was residential schools, 60s scoop, missing and murdered Indigenous women, reconciliation, and even restorative justice, and all of the many current human rights issues. She made a huge difference. Lastly, and this has already been mentioned, I would be remiss if I did not mention that Gail dealt with huge and serious issues with us, but she had an infectious sense of humor and a laugh. We shall miss both. Gail was not one to just tear things apart, which she could quite easily, but to build a better, more just NWT, and more widely, and she believed this sincerely, a better Canada, and, of course, a better world for that. So we say on behalf of the Commission, rest in peace, Gail. You earned it by the bucketful, and we shall miss you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, everyone, for your remarks, your words. We're going to have, this is awesome. We reached out to Karen Novak from Welder's Daughter, which is my mom's favorite band, and she is going to sing a couple songs for us. So I'd like to invite Karen up. Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's securely taped to the podium. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. I thought I'd
try?
I thought I'd try. I have a different microphone, so I thought that might be it. I can't remember the first time that I met Gail, but I'm pretty sure it was at the Gold Range. And she was sitting with her friend Dolly. And they two come in there, they're giggling away and looking at me, and I said, it's jam night. Why don't you come up and sing a couple songs? She was afraid, yeah, I got a couple songs I'll sing for you. And she would teach us her own versions of things like, I'm a Native woman. And forever then after there, we became good friends, and I loved every time she would come in and sing a song. So when Jesse reached out and said, would you please sing a couple of Gail's favorite music? I said, oh, I'm more than honored. So let's sing one. This is a Patsy Cline song. It's called Walking After Midnight. I go walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I rode the highway, along the highway, well that's just my way, saying I love you. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on its pillow. Maybe it's crying for me. And as the lights are gloomy, like the spoken to me, lonesome as I can be. I'm walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just hoping you will be somewhere. But walking after midnight, Love you too. Well, Gail also had a way of doing things nice and easy, but then she'd always get a little bit rough later on in the night. So I thought this would be an appropriate song. This is a Tina Turner song. Oh, yes. We're gonna do this nice and easy. Left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day. Hell, I never lost 1 minute of sleep, worried about the way things might have been. Think will I keep on turning, from there and keep on burning. We're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Ain't a lot of days in Memphis, got a lot of days out of New Orleans, but I never lost 1 minute of sleeping. Well, I lost the way things might have been. Think will I keep on turning, from there and keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. We're rolling, rolling, yeah, rolling on the river. Oh, we're not done yet. City, walking for the man every night and day, and I never lost 1 minute sleeping. What about the way things might have been? Think we'll keep on turning, from there we'll keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river, and we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Get up, do, 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 do. Made a lot of plays in Memphis, walked a lot of days down in New Orleans, but I never lost 1 minute of sleeping. What about the way things might have been? Think we'll keep on turning, round and we'll keep on burning. And we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. And we're rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Get up, do, 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 do. This is where she'd bring it down. She'd probably say something indecent right about it. Oh, yeah. If you come down to the river, bet you're gonna find some people who live. You don't have to worry, 'cause you got no money. People on the river are happy to give. If we'll keep on turning, from there we'll keep on burning. Thank you. Keep it real, Gail. We'll miss you.
She absolutely would have said something indecent in that film. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for sharing and for your remarks. It's we want to open up the floor now to anybody who wants to share. If you've got a story or just you want to say some words, you can come up and do it here. If that's a little too intimidating, we do have a handheld mic as well if you want to stay where you're at. But please, I'm encouraging everybody to share a story if they'd like. And then we can get to eating. So that'd be good too. So yeah, we're going to open it up now. Anybody want to come up? Please, yeah. Thank you, Ray.
My name's Ray Bethke. I had the pleasure and privilege of sharing this stage with Gail for many shows, 25, 30 years ago, including that 98 performance of Guys and Dolls, where we hauled a few young guys out of high school to make gangsters out of them. Gail was, well, I think we had 5 costume changes in that show. Gail had been involved in the production of most of those, particularly the women's outfits. If she wasn't on stage in a scene singing her heart out, she was quick changing in the back so she can come out to the side leg here and watch Jesse out here doing the choreography to Luck Be a Lady Tonight, which Phoenix, you would have been very proud of him. Sean Daly and I took them out to the foyer and worked on them pretty hard. So I had the good fortune last summer, actually it would have been last spring, being down at the boats were being craned in for the season, and Gail had pulled in with her car and a coffee, and we sat in our car for about an hour watching those boats going in. We talked about trips on the lake we'd each done, and more so we talked about the years here at NAC, and more importantly at Chris Foreman's regularly, the Stitch and Bitch Club, which is the name, the moniker given to the costuming group with Chris and Gail and Kathy Barassa, and there were a handful of others, who would spend endless evenings doing the costumes up for these shows. And I confided with Gail that one of my favorite things about Gail, and working with Gail in those costumes over the years, was her expertise. And everyone knows her for her warm heart and her crisp wit. I got to know Gail for her deftness with her needle and her warm hands when adjusting an inseam. You couldn't find anybody better in the business or someone who you felt more secure with. And I will always remember that conversation we had watching those boats go in. It was a pleasure going down memory lane with her, and a real thrill to have that opportunity. Thanks, Jesse.
Yes. Yes.
So,
He had a dildo question.
yeah. I wasn't going to come up and speak just because I only knew Gail. I didn't know her as well as many of you. I had the opportunity to play with her at the top night, not here, but we were doing the vagina monologues, and for one of the pieces, we needed a dildo. And she said she had it covered. But I don't think any of us really expected something so grand. But it worked perfectly. So just so happy to have had Gail as a part of my life, and just such an amazing person and super creative.
Thank you, Jesse, for having given this opportunity. My name is Janaki Balakrishnan. I have lived in Yellowknife only 12 years, and Gail had a long history. I have worked in many places in Toronto, and then eventually I ended up in Yellowknife, ending my career. So at the time, I have already worked a few years, and I have toiled myself and swamped in my work, and I did not know much of a community, but it's from morning till night almost in the work. As soon as I retired, I thought I'm going to spend my time full-time on volunteer work. And the first place that I landed to volunteer was at Native Women's Center. That was in the post office, Canada Post Office. I went there. The first lady I met was Gail. And I could see her, when I saw first time itself, I could see her passion towards the community, passion towards the work, and not only that, how she would respect a person and also assessing their skills and abilities to volunteer in a work. And that's how she was. She could easily demonstrate herself how she could assist her community to develop. When I said, I'm here to volunteer, you can give me anything I can do, and then and also I introduced myself. I retired as an electrical engineer. Oh, is that right? Oh, you have work to do. And immediately she said, you know, the women who come here, some of them cannot climb the stairs to go to the meeting hall upstairs. So we were looking for a chairlift to put it on the staircase. So can you please investigate on that one and do that? And she showed, and then she gave that responsibility to me. And that is the first volunteer work that I offered, where somebody recognized my skill and gave the right thing, rather than asking me to hold something or, you know, be with the other person, that kind of. So that is where I could easily judge her, how clever and smart that she was to use the resources cleverly to develop the community little by little. And I have no doubt how she could take part in all kinds of variety of volunteer work, and then still she by herself very pleasant and cheerful to other people, which she had demonstrated. And from then, little by little, I had opportunities to go with her, get to know her, and she also told me what she's involved in, what is this about, and she had taken. And finally, we were able to work together in the missing and murdered women and indigenous women and girls. So that was a very, very sad part of my life, hearing what it was, but still, that particular volunteer work also went very cheerfully because of her. Because we were doing lots of things, you know, beading and making banners and so on. And then there again, she was the leader among all the Native women who took part in, and other women who were there. So this is how, little by little, gradually, I got to know Gail. But Gail was always very, very pleasant. There's nothing that you can see except laugh and smile on her face. I was thinking how she could do that, because if I were in her position, my mind would have been cluttered with many things, and I might not be able to even concentrate someone's walking next to me. But that wasn't her. But a few times she gave me a ride in her car. Then I know where that clutterness went. The car was full of many things. I don't know what she had. But so that is the Gail I saw, and when I saw the displays, I know she was a very fashion icon. I could see that. Okay? And she has been someone I missed probably. So if I had come to NWT, I would have known much earlier and a lot more than what I had known from her. So I'm very glad that I got to know her during her life, and she was a marvelous woman, and she will be greatly missed by all of us. Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to come up and share a story? All right. Nope. Everybody's facing up. Oh, no. Wait, you got here first. Leg wrestle.
Up the stairs.
Good afternoon. My name is Roxanne Cook. I really want to acknowledge the singing group this morning. A little bit about Gail. When I first met her, I moved up here in 2013 for the position as the health director of Dene Nation. And I went to this, I don't know what kind of event it was, but it was at the Friendship Center, and the MC there was Gail. And I waited till Gail Cyr, and that rang a bell, her last name Cyr, because in our home community in southern Saskatchewan, we have a lot of Cyrs. So of course I was curious, and so I went to go talk with her on her break there, and I told Gail, I said, so we started talking, and I said, I said, we have a lot of the last names of Cyrs in my community in southern Saskatchewan. So we started talking from there, and I found out her mother, Gail's mother, that's the last name where she got the last name from Cyr. Her mother was actually from my community in southern Saskatchewan. So it was quite some news, and I found out further that we're related through my grandmother was a Cyr. So all of a sudden now I have a cousin in Yellowknife. But she just took me right under her wing and introduced me to quite a bit of people here, because when I first moved up, I didn't know anyone at all. So we're certainly going to miss her. And every time we'd meet on the streets, hello, cousin, would we just hugging each other, so happy we have a cousin. But that's how we are, as Indigenous people, we always have some cousins far and near. But again, we're going to miss her and hope her journey is well up there, and I'm sure she's meeting with a lot of ancestors right now and having a good rejoicing with them. And make which, thank you.
I apologize for bounding up here, but I have no business being up here. I would say Gail wouldn't have known my name if she saw me on the street. But I just wanted to share this little tidbit. Gail changed my life in a wonderful way. When I met her, she was wielding this dildo. She was the MC for Northward's Blush event and encouraged me to get up on a stage, which is why I came up, even though I have no business being here. And she encouraged me to get up on a stage and share things that I'd written. And she was such a wonderful example at being herself and sharing herself, unashamed, unadulterated, and it was a beautiful thing, and she has been an inspiration for me. And I just want all of you to think about, there's so many people around you that you probably affected their life in huge ways, and you have no idea. And so I'm sure I'm not the only one who admired Gail and saw her fashion, her style, her little pink house, and her interesting dildo, and wished I could have known her better, because she was just such an amazing personality and wonderful wonderful person to have the privilege of having in this town. So thank you so much.
Masicho. Good to see everybody here today. My name is William Greenland. I'm pretty sure Gail had a big part in the big play that was here in Yellowknife back in the 80s. It was called Matonabbee. I'm pretty sure she was involved with that. Because there was a lot of costumes to be made and a lot of indigenous people in this amazing play that I got pushed into somehow. When I came here as a journalist back in the early 80s, I was working with CKNM, and my boss said, go and cover that story. That's a really good story to cover. So I came out here every day, every time they were in rehearsal. I was backstage with a microphone in my hand like this, and the late Alex Charnicky says, where's that young guy with the microphone? So I said, oh, right here. Alex now standing back there. And he says, come on out. And he gave me a big stick and stuff like this. So I got in as one of the warriors. Just like I had no idea. Like I was so shy. I didn't know anything. I didn't like, so that could have been a native language. Anyways, I got in on the play and stuff like this, and there was only two of us guys in that play that had long hair. It was myself and Francois Paulette. So I was one of the warriors. Francois was obviously Matonabbee. And my part in the play, I acted as a Chippewan warrior and then a Cree warrior. So every time I was a Chippewan warrior, my braids were in a certain way. So I had to go back there, fix my hair, and then I'd come out, and I had a loincloth on and everything. And then I'd go, and after that scene was over, I'd run back in there, and he said, okay, I think it was Gail. Was it Gail? Okay, you're a Cree warrior now. So I had to braid my hair like a Cree. So I'd run, go do that and stuff like that. And I said, well, what about my loincloth? He says, never mind, just turn it around, because that's a... Holy shit. So, Gail was part of that, I think, But I think it was earlier than that I had met her. Because I was with somebody else and we were driving down the highway. And at that time, I didn't have my driver's license. And we were going to Betchico or something, I don't know. And we were coming around a corner and there's this van. It could have been Dahl was with her, maybe. Back them early days, maybe. But there were these 2 or 3 people squatted down behind the vehicle, in the back of the vehicle. And we came around the corner and there's 3 ladies, I guess it was, they were like in the front of the vehicle and they were squatted down peeing and like, trying to get away from us from seeing them. And I'm pretty darn sure it was Dahl and Gail. So yeah, I think that's one of the first times I met her. Pretty darn sure. Anyways, a number of years later, people were talking about she was an MC, She did a pretty good job, and she was a really good MC. And there was an event at by City Hall, and a lot of performers. I was getting ready to go up and sing a few songs with the guitar. And it was before I learned how to play the flute. And I was sitting there in the audience, and this young guy was up there playing piano. Man, he was really good. And he did his performance, and Gail come running out, and she says, wonderful, wonderful, and said his name, something. What an amazing penis. And everybody, she said it so fast that it came out like this. She meant, what a wonderful pianist. But the way she said it, everybody was like, what? That was Gail. So I'm really glad I got to know her. She was a wonderful lady. One more little story. Recently, I started getting it. My partner and I got into sewing and stuff, I guess, and I was working on these gaiters. I was making my own gaiters, and I didn't know how to sew them together. And the only person I could think of was Gail. So I went to see her. I knocked on her little pink house over here, and I asked her about it. And we went in there, and she went on telling stories about her sewing and all kinds of stuff and everything. And I only wanted to know is how do I put this thing together? And it took a few hours, and my partner and I, Gina was saying, William, bingo's going to start pretty soon. I said, okay, just wait. She's almost done, I think. So we got there talking away and stuff, and she's telling me all this stuff, and then she says, well, you need to do this, and she sat me down in front of a sewing machine. I don't even know what the heck, how to operate this thing. I said, where's the pedal and all this? It's one of those, I don't know. Anyway, she got me try to sew something, and she kept on talking about all kinds of sort of things and stuff, and I just 15, 20 minutes, I'll go see her. I think about 2 hours later, I'm walking out of our house with this big sewing machine. I still haven't used it. I don't even know how to use it, so I don't know what to do with this sewing machine. But anyways, I love it. Anyways, she was a wonderful lady, and it was such an honor to know her, and I asked Creator to look after her in her spirit world. Masicho.
There are currently 12 sewing machines in her basement, if you want one. I think we'll finish there. William, thank you so much, and everyone who spoke, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your thoughts and everything. We've got tons of food in the lobby. Please eat it. It's so much. But yeah, stay. Check out the pictures. Check out the stories. Share your stories if you wish, and have something to eat. You've all mentioned so many great things about her, and I think we all have a very similar opinion of her, that she was incredibly warm and incredibly courageous and fearless. Thank you for bringing that up, because fearlessness came up a lot when I was thinking about her. From Nishiwayastik, Cree Nation to Yellowknife, and where she came from to where she ended, she's a fucking rock star. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right, let's go eat.
While I'm far away from you, my baby, I know it's hard for you, my baby, because it's hard for me, my baby, and the darkest hour is just before dawn. Each night before you go to bed, my baby, whisper a little prayer for me, my baby, and tell all the stars. This is dedicated to the one I love.
When you're down and troubled and you need a helping hand, and nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call up my And you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh yeah, babe, to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, now all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend.
Deep inside, like my heart sprung a big break, and the stab of loneliness sharp and painful that I may never shake. Now you might say that I was taking it hard since you wrote me off with a call, but don't you wager that I'll hide the sorrow when I'm right down and bone. Now the race is on and here comes pride up the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back. They're trying not to fall. My heart's out of the running. True love scratched for another's sake. The race is on and it looks like heartaches, and the winner loses all.
Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train, and I was feeling near as faded as my jeans. Bobby thumbed a diesel down just before it rained and rode us all the way to New Orleans. I pulled my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana. I was playing soft while Bobby sang the blues. Windshield wipers slapping time, I was holding Bobby's hand in mine. We sang every song that Javi knew. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing, I mean nothing, honey, if it ain't free. No, no. Yeah, feeling good was easy, love, when he sang the blues. You know, feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. From the Kentucky coal mines to the California.
You have seen it one moment, then it is gone. You find it next week lying out on the lawn. And we all say, oh, well, I never was there ever a cat so clever as magical Mr. Mistopheles. Oh, well, I never was there ever a cat so clever as magical.
I can't stand the rain against my window, bringing back sweet memories. I can't stand the rain against my window, 'cause he ain't here with me. Hey, window pane, tell me, do you remember how sweet it used to be?
Mustang Sally. Guess you better slow that Mustang down. Mustang Sally, now baby. Guess you better slow that Mustang down. You've been running all over town. Oh, I guess you gotta put your flat feet on the ground. Sing it to them all the time, girls. All you wanna do is ride
She don't like her eggs all runny. She thinks crossing her legs is funny. She looks down her nose at money. She gets it on like the Easter bunny. She's my baby, I'm her honey. I'm never gonna let her go.
He ain't got laid in a month of Sundays. Caught him once and he was sniffing my undies. He ain't too sharp, but he gets things done. Drinks his beer like it's oxygen. But he's my baby and I'm his honey. Never gonna let him go.
In spite of ourselves, we'll end up sitting on a rainbow. Against all odds, honey, we're the big door prize. We're gonna spike our noses right off of our faces. There won't be nothing but big old hearts dancing in our eyes.
I pulled into Nazareth, was feeling about half-past dead. I just need some place where I can lay my head. Hey, mister, can you tell me where a man might find a bed? He just grinned and shook my hand. No was all he said. Take a load off Fanny. Take a load for free. Take a load off Fanny. And you put the load right on me.
Stay a while. Stay a while. And make my heart smile. You are the only friend that's held me to the end. That's held me to the end. Don't want to stay a while. Stay a while.
I heard there was a secret chord David played and it pleased the Lord, but he don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major left, the baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty, and the moonlight overthrew ya. Well, she tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your throne and cut your hair. From your lips she drew hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.